Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Anthony, and this is FPV Builds. On today's episode, we're going to be putting together the E-flite SR-71. We're going to be adding the FPV camera setup on it. We're going to put a receiver in it. We're going to take out the E-flite stuff. So this video will be good for anybody who doesn't fly with Spectrum. We're going to be taking out the Spectrum receiver, or their flight controller as they call it. We're going to be putting in our own, but we're also going to be taking out the servos that they have in this plane. So I hope you're subscribed and you're following. This is going to be pretty good for anybody who does not fly Spectrum and you want to fly and own this plane. This plane's pretty integrated with the Spectrum stuff. So let's get into it. All right, everybody, let's get started. So first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take this off here. This is where they have, this is what's holding down their little flight controller thing, or receiver. It says flight controller on it. Oh, the plug's really in there. I don't fly E-flite, so I don't really have a use for this. So, anybody else has a use for this, let me know in the comments. If you can use it on another plane, let me know in the comments, and I will give it to you for nothing. You can have it. All yours for free. This is plugged in there pretty good, so I just want to be able to take this out without damaging it. There we go. That little plug was in there pretty good. I'm guessing those are the ESC wires, or motor wires, the ESC. Oh, which means I'm going to have to put an ESC in it now too. That's just freaking wonderful. Yep. So that's the ESC as well. Interesting. I don't fly Spectrum, so I don't know. I'm not familiar with what this thing is, but it looks to me that this is an ESC as well. So I'm going to have to put an ESC in this thing. Happy, joy, joy. I wonder what size ESC this plane comes with. I'm looking it up real quick on my phone. Yep. So it's equipped with a motor control unit, including a receiver and ESCs. Motor size is 1820 by 6800 kV. Those are pretty small motors. Gotta say that it's probably a 40 amp ESC. So it's a 4S 2200. It has 2 ESCs in that tiny little thing. I can't imagine those ESCs are that good. So, twin 40 millimeters. So let's swap out that. We're going to have to put an ESC in here now too. So happy, joy, joy to me. So this isn't going to be that quick of a little build, but we should be able to get her done. These fiddly little servo wires, like, this is crazy. Now, some of you might be thinking, hey, Anthony, isn't it just easier if you just got a Spectrum remote and flew Spectrum? And my answer to that is yes, but then I would have to have an entire other remote that I have to deal with. This is pretty cool how they use these to put the wires in. That's actually a pretty good little idea. Little staple to kind of hold it. I don't know if you can see that or not. Little staple to kind of hold the wires in place. So that's pretty cool. I like that. One of the things I'll give everybody is just another quick tip. What I like to do is I keep sneaker boxes for my kids whenever they get new sneakers. And if you have young kids that are constantly growing, that's like multiple times a year. And what I like to do is I'll use a sneaker box to put all the little parts and everything in for that build as I'm going through it. So it's just easier to kind of locate everything at once. And then I'll keep that sneaker box, I'll put a label on it, and then as I'm doing the build, all the parts are in one spot. So now I have this black tape here. All right, I'll deal with that in a second. I wonder, why is this wire going to the front? What is that wire for? The landing gear? For the servo? For the nose? Does the nose have a servo? That's pretty interesting if it does. Yep. So they have a servo for the nose gear. I am just going to unplug it, and I will leave it where it is, and I'm just going to unplug it because I'm not using the landing gear on this, so it doesn't really matter to me. But I will take the wire out. So there's a lot of plastic in this model. The whole inside of it is plastic, which is pretty good. I like I've said in the unboxing video, this is a well-built model. The foam feels good. Everything feels really good. FCC label was inside the so we're just gonna unplug that, go back. I might, if my flying situation changes in the future, if I decide to join a club or something that has a runway, then I might put landing gear back on it. So that's why I don't permanently change anything. Okay, that's back in. All right. All right, so this sticker here, I'm going to just cut that cleanly. I don't need to take off this side because this side is the EC wire. So I'm actually going to leave these plugs. I believe I have some of those. If not, I'll swap them out for the plugs I have. So when I wire up the ESC, no, I don't have the same wires. I have wires that are similar. I have plugs that are similar, so we're going to change that. But I just wanted to clean that up a little bit so I can get the servo wires out. Okay. Save that tape so I can reuse it. So you can reuse that tape. Here's a little quick tip. If you don't know, you can reuse that tape with canopy glue. So you can use a little bit of canopy glue on this and you can reuse this tape. Okay, another piece of tape. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. I like to use these little pick tools. They're very helpful for the hobby. Very helpful. Okay. Get that out of there. So I'm going to be swapping out the servos. Oh my god, the size of these tiny little screws. I might have to do a little modification once I get to the point where the servos are out. These screws are so tiny. I can't even see if they're screws. Like, what are these? They're screws. They're just super duper duper tiny. And I don't want to just rip them out. Oh my god, I don't think I have a screwdriver that small. I can't even tell you how tiny these screws are. It's like magnifying glass. Oop, I might have one. Might not. Let's check and say. Screwdriver number 3. See if I can make screwdriver number 3 work. Nope. Screwdriver number 3 is not going to work. Nope. It is so tiny. It's like I'm using small screwdrivers as it is. And if these screws are tinier than that, it's almost like a eyeglass screw. And I believe I have a screwdriver that's small enough for that. Oh my god, I did it. Yeah! Grab a magnet. So right now, my busy life has kind of slowed down a little bit, so I plan on doing a lot more builds and videos. I have the 2 VTOL builds I'm working on right now. Still haven't gotten a response from OMP on whether or not they want to give me or lend me a ZMO for a video. Although Jizz FPV just did a video on one of those and crushed OMP, so I'm sure they're not too keen to give it out to another content creator so they can get beat up again in the review, but I would be objective. Okay. Having a little magnet around is perfect for tiddly little screws like that. So there we go. And this servo's out. There you go. Bye-bye, tiny little UMX servo. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these servos. I mean, it's just like a regular servo. Yeah, I mean, it's just a servo without a housing on it. I don't know. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. There's a servo. So now we're going to get a regular 4-gram servo. Okay, so we're going to use a regular 4-gram servo, which all in all, they're about the same size. This one just has a bigger distribution board on it. Going to have to attach the servo arm. Okay, I'm just putting the servo arm on here so I can mock this up. Just doing a mock of where I want this to go. Yeah, I'm gonna have to carve some foam to make this work. I can make that work like that. Okay. Okay. There isn't a lot of room to carve this out, but I gotta carve this out a little bit. I'm just gonna mock this up on here. See how this is. Okay. Should have plenty of power for that. It's almost better right there. Be nice and straight. I don't want to do that though. I don't want to make any more holes than I don't have to. Alright, let me get the other servos out. Ooh. I had 4 of those servos. I guess I don't have 4 of them. I only have 2 of them. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, and I have one over there. I'll have to dig through my servos to see what I have. Okay. Yeah, I can chop that out a little bit. Right there. Okay. Okay. So I am going to chop the foam a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm just going to expand this hole. I think right about there is about where I want this to be. Yeah, that'll work. Snake the wire down and around. Come up to there. Okay. I'm going to find my other micro servo. And then we're good to go. Alright, so I'm going to get that servo. I want to make sure I have it centered, so I'm going to put a servo tester on it. And that's what we're going to do next. Doing the servo tester, I want to put this in, just make sure the servo's okay. It's always good to test servos, make sure everything works, run them through a couple of cycles, make sure they're not making any noise, grinding, or anything like that. The Toolkit M6 is a great little tool for this. It does servo testing, charging, decharging. There's so much that it does, and it's relatively cheap for what it does. Also, in a power outage or something like that, you could plug in your LiPo, charge your phone, other devices through USB, so it's a great tool. I primarily use it as a servo tester. So I'm going to set the servo to the midpoint. Okay. Servo is at the midpoint. I'm going to hook it up to the control arm and just see where I need to be. There we go. All right, I already outlined the cut I'm going to make for the foam. Get my exact on this back and out. Okay. Okay. And I definitely don't want to cut too deep because these wings are super thin. Okay. Did I do a good job? Oh, yes, I did. I did a nice job. All right, I'll just channel that straight down through there. Okay. I can make it a little bit flatter. I really have to be careful of going too far. So another great tool I have is I have a cordless Dremel with these little foam cutting bits, and they work awesome. Low speed, they chew up some foam, and you can be pretty accurate with it. Make sure you don't go too deep. So I'm going to use that real quick just to level this out a little bit. Take a little bit more off, watch it as I'm doing it, and make sure I'm not going too deep, because that's what I gotta do. Okay. Alright, let's see how this fits with this little thingamaboggy Who's what's it? I could do it like that and fill the rest of that with a little bit of foam. It's not a horrible idea. I can do that. Get a little protection on the servo like that. Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do. So I'm going to move that over a little bit. I'll fill this area right here with some foam. That'll have enough room. And even if I land, it's still lower than these engine nacelles here. So the servo's still not going to take an impact, or the arm. I can go down a little bit deeper though, so I might do that. I might just decide to go down just a little bit deeper. So let's see what we got there. All because I don't like flying Spectrum. Well, I don't know. I don't believe in those servos that they have on there anyways. That's just my personal opinion right there. So I'm chopping this out. I'm going to come across with the servo wire. Making a little notch here for the servo wire. And I have black paint I can touch this all up with. I'm gonna Mod Podge this anyways in the matte Mod Podge, so okay. That come across. Okay. I can hear my wife yelling at my kid upstairs, which is pretty funny. I mean, not funny if you're watching this, sweetie. Just kidding. I'm gonna get a different bit. See if I can get one that can. There we go. Okay, that's about as little as I can go because I can feel it. I can start to feel it on the other side. So I don't want to go any further than that. Once I have glue back on there and I glue this in, it'll be strong again. There we go. We got a nice little channel for that right there. Boom, and then the wire comes across. Okay. Is that about level? Yep, that's about level. Oh, nice. All right, good. Okay. Good. Good. I can come down a little bit on the front of that. There's a little bit more meat right here. I can trim that a little bit more. And that'll be that. Just making a deeper channel for the wire to run through. That's what I'm doing right now. These servo wires are a little bit thicker than the other ones. So I'm going to deepen the channel a little bit just so I can get the tape to fit on there nicely. Okay. Alright. So that's that. That's one servo down. Another one to go. Oh, actually, I'll just move it over to me more. I don't have to flip it around for everybody to see it. Just move it over a little bit. Put some screws and stuff back in the servo bag. Okay. 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 Just gonna disconnect this for now. Alright, so it's time to start doing that other servo. Yay! That's one of the nice things about having the sneaker box is I can literally just throw everything in there, all the little parts. I don't have to worry about losing them or anything. Everything just goes in the sneaker box for right now. Amazon boxes work good. Use those. I like the sneaker box because they open and close easily. You know, they have that little flip lid. So that's why I like the sneaker boxes. Okay, time to start doing this one. I really think I am going to have to flip it. Sorry, y'all. I got to flip it. Alright, there you guys can still see it like that. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing to this servo, same thing to this side. I don't think you guys want to watch that all over again. So I'm going to pop this off, take that out, get the new servo in, cut it in the foam, Dremel it out, and then run the servo wire. Alright, so we'll cut back to when I get to the point of the middle servo and then installing the ESC and the receiver. So I have the servo mods basically done, and I've been hacking and chopping up foam to get these servos all done. So there you go. This side is done, ready to be glued in. This side is done and ready to be glued in. There we go. Something like that. And the middle is done and ready to be glued in. Now, it took me a while to figure out how I was going to do the middle because of how they have this dual elevator set up right in the middle. So what I did was I couldn't lay it flat like this, right? Oh, by the way, I decided to use a little bit bigger of a servo because there is going to be 2 control surfaces on it. So I went to a 9 gram instead of a 4 gram servo. I couldn't mount it like this. I couldn't mount it like that because that wouldn't get you enough throw on it. Couldn't mount it any other way. So I mounted it like this. And this has taken me quite some time to do here. So I mounted it like that, and it works pretty good. So, hold on, let me get that. There you go. So there we go. We have success. If you can see the control surfaces moving. So yeah, that was the best way I could mount it. And then I had to also be worried about height clearance for this cover, which actually a pretty good little solution I came up with here. Took a little bit of time to get this. There's a bunch of foam hacking going on. But yeah, nicely under the cover. So then I'll have some space. I might mount the receiver forward a little bit more. I'm going to change the location of where I'm putting the FPV gear. I haven't decided that yet. I might put that down in here. I could put the VTX in one of these little areas here because there will be air coming in, so it will have room to breathe. So I'm figuring that out next. Right now, I'm probably about an hour to an hour and a half into the build, figuring all this stuff out. Took me a little bit to figure out how I was going to make the servos work for the back, the servo work for the back, which I think that's a pretty good solution. What I have here, I'll make sure I glue it in really good. And, you know, I think this is going to work great. And I don't have to worry, like, you know, these servos are for a $249 plane. These are the servos you get. I've always said Horizon makes decent products, but their prices sometimes are just a little nutty. Like, this is nonsense for the servo. I understand, you know, it's got a PDB on it, and, you know, but it's plastic gear. It's just, I'm not bashing them. I'm just saying you could do a little better than that for $249. Servos are cheap. I think I got these servos for like $5 each. So, you know, what are we talking about here? At least I know with these new servos in place, you know, my control surfaces are going to be good. I'm not going to lose a servo in midair. So it's a lot better that way. All right, so let's get to the next step, which is going to be gluing in the servos. I got to put the screw in this one. I centered the servo before I did that. And what I did was I reamed out the middle of one of the holes so I can fit both in, because I tried putting one in like each one of these rods in a different hole. And what was happening was they were both kind of at a different height because of the distance. So that wasn't working. So now I have it at a point that I feel is pretty good and they're pretty equal. So yeah, I think we're good with that. Even if it's off a tiny, tiny little bit, it's really not going to mess with the flight characteristics that much. Next thing I have to decide is what amp. I can't find too much information on this setup here that supposedly has 2 ESCs in it, which I'm sure it does. I don't know how many amps it is though, so I'm trying to figure out, you know, how much these little motors draw. I want to say I would be okay if I went to like a 50 or 60 amp ESC. That's what I'm deciding now. So that's where I'm at. I also have to see what ESCs I have laying around. I don't want to put anything too big in here because then it's going to make it heavier. And this is going to be a hand launch model. So yeah. And then I'm going to have some black touch up and stuff to do. It's going. It's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have got this plane had I known that it was going to be like this. So, I don't know. I don't know if this plane's worth it. If you don't fly Spectrum, This is made for people who fly Spectrum. It's made to be in the Horizon Hobby ecosystem. So if you don't fly Spectrum, I don't know that I would buy this plane, to be honest with you. It's a good thing I can make these mistakes for you. I'm willing to make these mistakes for everybody else. I'll take one for the team, I tell you. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I think I'm losing a little bit of my sanity with all the foam I had to hack out of this thing. Gotta tell you, it was a considerable amount of foam. So that's where we're at. I have to glue these in. I'm going to get those there. I got glue in the servos. I have foam everywhere. Get my little foam blaster out. So I got this little air blaster. I use it for cleaning my computer and my keyboard and stuff like that. Great little tool. I'm going to use this to get rid of some of these foam specks I have everywhere. And then I'll just have to sweep up later. Great little tool. Comes with a vacuum attachment, so after I'm done, I can go around vacuuming up the little pieces of foam and stuff like that. I think I paid, I don't know, $20 for this thing. It's rechargeable. I mean, the amount of computer cleaner I used to go through, cleaning out my computer and desktop and stuff, the cans of spray, this is well worth it. Just use a little vacuum attachment real quick. So the little vacuum attachment just goes on the back of it, and it just sucks everything up. Show you if there's any foam over here. Like, it'll suck up that big piece. It's pretty strong for what it is. It's a great little tool. Like, it'll suck the plastic right up. Like, yeah, so I'll put a link in the description for this. If you watch the unboxing video, also, I would like for you to give me some feedback on what you thought of the new video format. Did you like the little bit of history in the beginning of the plane? Was that interesting? Or would you rather I just get to the unboxing? I'm playing with different formats, so I'd like to get everybody's opinion. All right, so I'm going to heat up the glue gun. I have some black, really super strong hot glue I'm going to use to glue this stuff in. I think everything's in a good spot. I think I'm ready to go. Yep. All right, let me get that glue gun. All right, so I have the servos glued in. That's all done. Trying to figure out how I'm going to power these two motors. I was thinking about doing like a quadcopter PVB, doing two ESCs, So I'll show you what I was thinking about here, because this is baffling me how I should do this. Or I was thinking a U-back with 230 amp ESCs. The problem that I'm facing with this entire setup is there's just no space inside this thing. I was thinking a single 40 amp ESC. So I was thinking about doing a PDB here, placing that forward as far forward as I can to make some room in here, because this is the craziest thing ever. So there's no space. So try to go as far forward with that, and then solder on the ESCs like that, which that might work, and then put the receiver in the middle. That could actually work. And then individually solder up and wire each motor. Boom. But I gotta say, I've had to hack away so much foam out of this thing because there's just no space, right? Even in the battery compartment, there isn't a ton of space. And then if I put something up there, I would have to run wires all over the place. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So then I was like, all right, well, I could do a U-back, right, to power the ESCs, right? So I can hook this up to the battery and the ESCs, and then receiver. It's just, I don't know. I feel like that's just so sloppy. I'm not a huge fan of that. The PDB is actually a pretty clean way of doing this. And if I wanted to, at that point, I could do a flight controller as well. I could put an FPV flight controller in it, iNav in it. I had to literally cut this piece off nice and cleanly, hack out a bunch of foam of it so I can get more space. Like, this is insanity. I gotta say, this whole thing is just crazy. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Wow. That's it. Just wow. This is definitely not a plane I would recommend getting if you're not flying if you're not flying Spectrum, if you're not in that ecosystem. I would stay away from this plane. Cool plane, very well built, but it is definitely integrated and made for the Spectrum system, because this is a lot of work. I'm probably 2.5 hours in at this point. And I'm not done yet. I have to solder everything up. I mean, if I'm this far, I might as well put a flight controller in it. I could do a little flight controller in there and you know, boom, put iNav on it and have all my flight control have all my flight control features with the gyro and everything like that, you know. So that's where I'm at. It'll be nice and clean. I don't do stuff that's messy, so you know, like this would be a nice clean look if I did that. And then, you know, I could even move it this ways a little bit forward. If I can get this forward a little bit more, that might actually help me out. If I could push that forward a little bit more. Oh yeah, that's as far forward as that's gonna go on that side. Yep. That's about as far as that's gonna go. I see what's happening. All right, yeah. So that's not a horrible solution. And then use a smaller receiver for it. I have an R8 Pro I can use. I can use a SR-6 receiver, or a TDR-6. That could work. Or I could put an R9 SX in it, which is a smaller one. That these antennas are huge. But yeah, I could do that. So that could work. I could do that. Put those there and there. Boom. Or I could use a TD and not, well, the TD still has one of those crazy antennas on it. It's got one small antenna and then a T antenna on it. These T antennas would be a problem, so you definitely can't fit like an X8R or something like that in there because it's just, I mean, you could, it's just going to be really tight. It's just so tight in there. There is no room, and unless I run like a 5-volt rail, I'm just looking for my receivers right now, looking through what I have. Oh, here's an X8R that I was playing with just to see for space. So, I mean, size-wise, it's not that much better. Let me see, does it fit in between the two of those? Sideways, it does. And I could just glue those down, put one there, and glue them down. Let me see, does that fit under the cover? That might work. What a hodgepodge. Like, this is just so crazy. Like, had I known it would have been this difficult, I wanted an SR-71 just because of the history, and they're really cool. That does fit like that. Okay, I could do that. Put an X8R in it. And go from there. And tidy everything up. I'm still trying to figure out, like, maybe I can use the battery, not the battery, the landing gear hole for something. But then I would have to, because this stuff sticks out so far down, that I would have to chop these pieces off. I'm trying to see what the camera can see, like how far the camera can see. Yeah, so I'll back this up a little bit for you guys to see a little better. So there's some space up in that hole, right? But if I do that, I would have to chop some stuff off of here. This piece came off like by itself. You know, and I'm thinking about like, all right, so that came off. I was trying to fit I put a 4S, and that's the thing, like, even with a battery pack, like, this is really tight even with just the battery pack. So they say it's recommended for a 4S 2200. This is a 4S 1800, and it is super tight. It was tight to the point that when I put this in here, it popped up. So then I was like, all right, let me try pushing it in sideways, and it doesn't really fit that good sideways either. Like, they didn't really think this out that well, right? Depending on where the CG is, I'm going to have to push this battery up a little bit. And that just popped out. Like, it wasn't really glued down that well. I'm going to have a bunch of black touch-up I'm going to have to do. I messed up a little bit on the top side. Messed up a little bit on the top side when I was hacking out foam. I poked through a little spot right there. So, not a big deal. I'll smooth that out. Once I Mod Podge it, it'll be alright. So, yeah. That's where I'm at. Cool plane, nice plane, but I don't recommend getting this if you're not flying Spectrum. Stay far, far away from this plane. I still have to clean this up a little bit. I can put the servo and the covers over here like that. So that won't look that bad. And I can always put a little piece of foam in here and make that nice and smooth. You know, that's purely aesthetics at that point. At this point, I just want to get it flying. Yeah, this is a project. It's a much bigger project than I wanted it to be. And I have a bunch of those going on. I think my PDB solution is probably the best solution, because then I can use individual ESCs, because if you're going to use like a regular ESC like this, it's just going to be too big. Like, look at the size of that, and that's a 40 amp. I would have to use a 20 amp on each motor at least. I looked it up. There isn't a lot of data on what that Spectrum box has. I don't even know where I put it. There isn't a lot of data on what that Spectrum box has as far as what the ESCs are. So, oh, it's over there. I'll grab it real quick. I tried to look up like what this had, and there isn't a ton of data on that. So, I believe it's a 20 amp for each channel with a total of 40 amps, but you know, I don't know. So, all right, everybody, I'm going to chop this into 2 videos because there's a lot of work and I don't want to bore everybody to death. So, thank you for watching and follow up for the next video. Hope you're subscribed. Build giveaway videos coming up pretty soon. At this point, I might just freaking give away this thing because this thing's driving me crazy. So, thanks everybody. Have a good night.